Sergeant Lucas Hayes has to make the painful choice between following the rules and saving a Vietnam veteran's fallen Bronze Star from being made fun of at Arlington's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. His bold act made people all throughout the country angry. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification before we continue the story. Also, please tell us in the comments where you are watching this from. If you like stories like these, stay tuned because we have another unique one for you tomorrow. The dawn was cool over Arlington National Cemetery. A fine mist shrouded rows of white headstones, each of which held a story that had not yet been told. The tomb of the unknown soldier was in the middle, and the marble face shone softly in the dark November sky. The 29-year-old tomb guard, Sergeant Lucas Hayes of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, marched perfectly, 21 steps, stop, turn, and 21 steps again. His polished boots hammered on the stone patio with each click, which was as constant as a heartbeat. His M14 rifle was on his shoulder, his silver bayonet shone, his white gloves were spotless, and his blue dress uniform was flawless. People with coffee cups, youngsters carrying backpacks, and veterans wearing old caps all regarded Lucas as a living monument and a tribute to those who never came back. Lucas had a secret problem that he hid behind his immaculate appearance. 4 years ago, an improvised explosive device ripped apart his battalion in the dusty streets of Iraq. Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole, Lucas's squad leader, pushed him out of the way of the explosives and took the whole force himself. The memory was a painful scar, but Lucas could still hear Cole's calm voice saying, "Keep them alive, Hayes. That's the job." Lucas joined the tomb guard to honor warriors like Cole and to remember the stories of those who were never recognized. He felt like his past was walking with him, making every step harder. The leaves rustled as they skittered over the square, mixing with the whispers of the people who were gathered. Lucas's eyes searched the scene, trained to see both everything and nothing. A little girl with pigtails that bounced held up a tiny American flag. An aging couple leaned on each other, their faces scarred with sadness. A man in his 70s stood at the velvet rope barrier, leaning on a cane. There was a patch from the 1st Infantry Division on the sleeve of his denim jacket. Lucas knew right once that he was a veteran of the Vietnam War. The man had a face full of wrinkles and eyes that looked like they were peering into a faraway forest. Daniel Sullivan, popularly known as Danny, was a former Army sergeant who walked over the dirty hills of Vietnam in 1968. Danny came back to a country that didn't appreciate his service, with his Purple Heart and Bronze Star medals hidden in a drawer that was too heavy to lift. His best friend, Private Tommy Guan, did not make it through Khe Sanh, but he did. Tommy got the Bronze Star after he died for protecting 2 injured troops from sniper fire before he was shot and killed. Danny told Tommy's mom that he would honor the unknowns by taking the medal to the tomb one day. He came today, 57 years later, because of an unknown need, the need to know that Tommy's sacrifice was still important. Danny held the Bronze Star in his arthritic fingers. Its bronze surface was tarnished, but it was heavy with meaning. As he stood at the barrier, the noise of the crowd faded to a whisper. As he steadied himself on the slippery stone, the metal of his cane slipped. It hit the square with a sound that cut through Danny's chest. The metal shone against the gray stone and slipped out of reach beyond the rope. Danny's breath was shallow as he stood still. Instead of stone, there were the sounds of shell casings, Khe Sanh's cries, and Tommy's voice shouting his name. People in the audience paid attention. A teenager laughed while wearing a sweatshirt and headphones. "The old man dropped his shiny badge," the man said. His friend laughed and pushed him. No one went nearer, but a woman nearby with a scarf that was fluttering yelled, "Have some respect. Bet it's fake." Lucas's jaw tightened as he took in everything. People made fun of Tommy's bravery while the Bronze Star lay there. There were strict rules that said tomb guards couldn't break formation. They don't move or say anything. They are in charge of the unknown, the right. When Lucas disobeyed orders to get a wounded private out of a burning Humvee, his mind abruptly went blank. His boss yelled at him. Then softly, "Don't let them fade, Hayes. Not one." Cole's words echoed in Danny's head as he bent down, his knees creaking and his fingers dancing over the metal. The teen's voice rang out over the area as he laughed even harder. Lucas's gloved hand moved, and the leather creaked. He counted his steps. 19, 20, 21. Wait a second. Turn. The crowd held their breath, like air before a storm, and felt a change. Lucas looked at the Bronze Star, which was a light in the gray that looked like a star. He saw that Danny's hand was shaking, his shoulders were slumped, and he looked humiliated. I thought of Tommy Guan, a 19-year-old who gave up everything and was left with nothing except a metal kick. Stay, as per protocol. Move, Duty said. After that, Lucas got off the mat. 1 step, then 2, slowly and carefully. The crowd gasped in shock. Lucas crossed the rope, his feet making a loud noise, and a child said, "Mom, he's moving." He dropped to his knees and raised the bronze star with perfect timing. He used his glove to clean the bronze, which shone in the sun. He got up and turned to Danny, who opened his eyes in astonishment and gratitude. Danny took the bronze star from Lucas's steady, low voice, which broke all the conventions. "This belongs with you, Sergeant. It's his courage, not just metal." He whispered, "That's Tommy's," in a voice that was raspy from years of being alone. I thought I had lost him again. Tears ran down his rough face. He earned it saving lives at Quezon. Lucas gazed up into his warm, steady eyes and said, "Thank you, son." He delivered a steady, clear salute that held whispered tales. "He's not lost, sir. None of them are." As if nothing had happened, he turned and went back to his station. The crowd stopped moving, and then clapped softly and respectfully. A 20-year-old college student named Mia Chen used her phone to videotape it. A tomb guard broke the rules to commemorate a Vietnam warrior, and her hands shook as she wrote on Instagram, "This is what America means." Captain Robert Vance, Lucas's boss, waited in the shadows of the memorial amphitheater across the plaza. He had a serious look on his face and was scratching his pen, which was against the rules. Around 10:47 a.m., discipline should be suggested. Vance, who had fought in Desert Storm, thought the tomb was sacred and that its rituals were impossible to break. Lucas did something that had never been done before. Before noon, Mia's video had been seen 300,000 times. By nightfall, it could be found on YouTube, X, CNN, and TikTok. He embarrassed the post, and comments poured in. "This is why we honor our troops. He broke the rules for a vet. That's a hero." Others disagreed, saying, "Tomb guards must be perfect." Veterans organizations came together and shared pictures of their medals, including bronze stars with Tomb Guard honor, Purple Hearts, and Silver Stars. Lucas sat alone in the barracks that night. His uniform was neatly hanging up, and his black coffee was steaming but untouched. A 73-year-old Marine who served with Danny in Vietnam and now walks with a limp wrote on X, "That kid gave Danny his pride back." A VFW post in Ohio shared the video, saying, "This is what service looks like." The room was bare, with a locker, bunk beds, a picture of his team in Iraq, and Cole's smile in the middle. Private Jenny Torres, another tomb guard, slipped in without making a sound. "You knew you'd get in trouble, didn't you?" she remarked, as she leaned against the wall. Lucas stared at the image and nodded. That medal was his friend's life. He couldn't just leave it there. "Laughed at Vance is mad," she said, crossing her arms. "Secured the tomb. Might bench you for good," Lucas whispered, and his lips curled into a smile. After looking at him, Jenna sat across from him and said, "Worth it. He carried that bronze star for 50 years. We almost let it slip away. You think about Iraq, about Cole." "Every step," Lucas said, his voice barely above a whisper. The heat, the blast, Cole pushing him down with his hands, and the silence that followed. He carried Cole's dog tag as a reminder to never forget. "Danny, the vet, seems to have the same thing." Jenna nodded, her eyes soft. "I couldn't let him lose it. They won't get it at the top, but I do." Danny was in a hotel room outside Arlington, sitting on a groaning bed with bronze star in his hands. He could only afford the motel, and the wallpaper was falling apart. There was a faded picture of him and Tommy in Vietnam next to him. The two kids were smiling even though they were scared and dirty. He hadn't looked at it in decades because he was too scared of the pain. Now he traced Tommy's face. "You made it to the tomb, Tommy," he said. He turned on the TV and whispered, "Someone saw you. Someone cared." Lucas's salute dominated the screen, even though it was blurry. Danny's chest tightened as the anchor continued. A tomb guard's unprecedented act of compassion has sparked debate, tradition, or humanity. We'll explore after the break. News of his private visit went across the country. He thought of the years after Vietnam, the Bronze Star, the nights he drank to forget, and the protesters at the airport. Tommy's legacy was what kept him going, proof that their fight meant something. A young soldier told him today that it still did. The next morning, Lucas had to go in front of a disciplinary board at Fort Myer. Captain Vance was in charge with a stern countenance. 3 officers stood next to him, their uniforms covered in medals and other decorations. "Sergeant Hayes," Vance said briskly, "you broke formation, spoke, and engaged a civilian yesterday at 10:47, violating the sanctity of the tomb. Please explain yourself. Lucas stayed at attention, his stance faultless. I honored a soldier's sacrifice, sir. That bronze star belonged to Private Tommy Nguyen, who earned it in blood at Quezon. It fell, no one else moved. I couldn't let it be mocked. The tomb isn't just for the unknown, it's for every soldier who served, living or dead. Vance's eyes widened. He was tapping his pen. Your duty is the ritual, not playing hero. The tomb demands perfection, not sentiment. With all due respect, sir, Lucas said in a stern voice, my duty is to the men we buried, and the ones still standing, carrying their weight. That veteran deserved better than laughter. The silence was deep. Lucas's eyes stayed on the retired colonel, who was covered in medals, as he cleared his throat and stated, recommendation, 1 week suspension, public statement of regret. The room felt smaller and the air was electric. I won't regret honoring a veteran, sir. Not now, not ever. Vance tightened his jaw and leaned back. He lived by tradition, but he also knew how to give up. Danny went to an Arlington VFW post after a reporter talked him into it. The place was filled of young people from Iraq and Afghanistan, and older veterans with gray hair. They were all talking and drinking beer. The bronze star was pinned to Danny's jacket, and its weight kept him from falling over. He said in a strong voice, this isn't just metal. It's Tommy Nguyen. He was 19. He saved 2 men and got shot for it. Every kid we lost is in this metal. That guard, Lucas, didn't just pick it up. He picked me up. Don't punish him. Give him a medal. The crowd went wild with applause. X got a recording from a young veteran. By nightfall, Fox News, MSNBC, and all other news outlets had aired it. Mia's video has gotten 2 million views so far, and it has caused a lot of excitement. Tomb Guard honor was a hot topic with 1.5 million posts. A petition with 400,000 signatures asked for Lucas to be praised instead of suspended. A Vietnam-era chopper pilot posted a picture of his bronze star with the remark, Hayes reminded us why we fought. A Texas history teacher had his students write essays about the video. A 12-year-old girl from Ohio, whose father served in Iraq, posted a watercolor of Lucas saluting Danny with the caption, "This is what heroes do." During a Veterans Day speech in Congress, a senator from Virginia remembered Lucas's name and said, "If we punish compassion, we dishonor the soldiers we serve." Sergeant Hayes showed that duty isn't just standing still. He broke the rules, but he fixed something bigger, one student wrote. This is a step forward. The chamber cheered, and the newsrooms heard it. Captain Vance felt the pressure rising as he sat alone in his office. He watched Mia's video again, stopping to see Danny's face change from pride to relief to tears. Vance buried pals in Desert Storm and carried their names with him. He had lost friends before. He looked through Lucas's file and noticed that Purple Heart, an Iraqi volunteer with a perfect record, had pledged to protect the grave. 10 days later, Danny came back to Arlington. He rubbed his head and typed, "Recommend commendation for exceptional judgment under unique circumstances." The throng broke apart, with some people nodding and others saluting. A child gave him a small flag. Lucas was on duty, and his eyes were bright and his steps were precise. At 11 a.m. there was a ceremony in the plaza of the tomb. A brigadier general with a chest full of ribbons asked Danny and Lucas to come to the center. Lucas was given special permission to pin a silver star, a civilian reward for valor, to Danny's blazer. Danny's hand was holding the bronze star, and his eyes were shining. "For Tommy," he said in a shaky voice. Lucas knelt down and put a white rose at the bottom of the grave. He said in a gentle, deep voice, "For all of them." The throng stood with their hands over their hearts, and some of them cried. Mia Chen, who was in the first row, wiped away a tear and turned off her phone. Danny placed Tommy's bronze star next to his Purple Heart in his hotel room. The medals shone in the light. A Vietnam veteran in the rear offered a shaky salute and mouthed the words, "Thank you." He pulled out the picture of him and Tommy, both of them smiling. "Don't stop. You gave an old man his friend back. You gave America its soul." He fell asleep after writing to Lucas but never sending it. Put on the TV. A news reporter recounted a tweet that went viral as Lucas opened a drawer in his house. The tomb guard didn't break tradition, he built it. Inside were Cole's dog tag, a folded flag, an army letter, and a medal for bravery. He let it go, but his fingers stayed there. "Another weight," he said to himself. He looked out at the cityscape of Washington, D.C. and added, "But I'll carry it." Cole was watching from somewhere. 4 months later, a Vietnam veteran from California came to Arlington. "He moved for one of us. That's enough." He sent a picture of Lucas next to the grave, with his shadow clearly visible against the marble. The tomb holds not only the unknown, but all of us. Danny died peacefully that spring, with a grin on his face and a bronze star in his palm. Lucas stood in dress blues during his burial in a Virginia church, saluting as taps played and his notes broke the silence. His quiet presence was a promise. Always remember Tommy Danny Cole. Weeks later, a boy in Arlington pulled on his mother's sleeve while he watched Lucas march. Lucas listened, his face unchanged and his steps steady, as she knelt and said softly, "Why is he so still?" "Because he only moves when it matters, sweetheart. And when he does, the whole world notices." He felt it deep inside, the weight of bravery, as light as a rose and as heavy as the memory of a country. He marched 21 steps, carrying the past and protecting the future. This is a story about a soldier, a medal, a calm November morning at Arlington, and a promise that was broken 50 years ago. It serves as a reminder that sometimes there needs to be room for a respite, a memory, or mercy in the middle of duty's serious accuracy. At the nameless soldier's grave, where movement is coordinated and silence is respected, one guy broke the rules not to be rude, but to honor a life. So don't forget Tommy, Danny, and the others, whose bravery never got any public exposure, but whose impact will last for hundreds of years. Tell their story to make people think, not to start a fight. If you ever go to Arlington, you should also see the guard work. Pay close attention and count how many steps you take. You might hear the sound of a promise kept in between the clicks of his boots.